Hello and welcome. We are in the PTS. I'm going to give you my Magsorc build for Murkmire for single target boss fights. It'll change a little bit for trash and or AoE fights in general, but not by much. Um, we'll just get into it. High Elf. I like High Elf more than Dark Elf because it offers more utility in doing different things in the build and still doing very, very good damage. You get a little bit more extra Magicka, and if you choose to throw throw on the lightning staff, you can do more damage like that for trash pulls. And it's only slightly behind uh, Dark Elf on single target with 2 Infernos. So we have the Thief Mundus Stone. Uh, I'm a werewolf because it's the PTS and they don't let you cross over easily. But this would be a vampire on live to get the extra regen. Witch Mother's Potent Brew or Clockwork Citrus Fillet is the food that you would want to use. And like I said, this is for single target boss fights, so that we can stay in melee range on. So we're going to be using Zons. If it's a ranged fight, you should use Valkynscoria or Lambris. Valkynscoria for a little bit more damage intensive fights coming into you. You have a little extra health, help you for your survivability a little bit more. But if it's just a boss that you can parse and stay at range, go ahead and throw on the Alambris. And then Sororia's perfected Sororia gear, by far the best body pieces you can wear. Um, if you don't have the perfected version, the imperfected version is also very good. It's just a couple of K DPS behind the perfected version. And then Spell Strategist on our front bar. Now, I prefer 3 Bloodthirsty. There's a lot of people that will say, diminishing returns on Bloodthirsty if everybody's using it because the execute goes by faster. And I say to that, well, then the trade's doing its job. And that's pretty much it. Because yes, the execute's gonna go by faster if everybody's wearing Bloodthirsty. But that's what Bloodthirsty's there for. Now, if you want to run 2 Arcane, 1 Bloodthirsty, or all 3 Arcane, that's fine. I mean, it's 100% acceptable. It's personal preference for the trait of your jewelry. But Bloodthirsty will do the most damage for you in the longer boss fights, and it'll help with cleaving down ads in other boss fights. It's just very good trait. And Spell Strategist Inferno Staff, infused shock damage, and Maelstrom Inferno Staff, infused flame damage. Now, if you don't have the Maelstrom Staff, you can just use another Spell Strategist or Burning Spell Weave or whatever other staff you have on hand. It's basically whatever you have at that point. And that's pretty much that. Let's see. Different gear options. Now, while you're farming for your spell strat gear from the rewards of the worthy, you can run. You should probably be running Burning Spell Weave on your front bar until then. It's the setup I use on live, and it still pulls very good DPS. Not as much as the spell strat, but it's within a couple of K of it on average. So it's really good. Let's see. If you don't have Burning Spellweave, Mother Sorrow still works. It doesn't do quite as much DPS for a sorcerer as Burning Spellweave does, And also, if you don't have that, um, you can use, oh, what is that other set? Let's see if I can find it. Light dungeon sets. You can use Scaly Mage, that's it. And that'll do you really good as well. But for Scaly Mage, I'd run Force Pulse instead of Elemental Weapon. And for trash fights and dungeons and such, either use Valken Scoria, Lambrus, or Grothdar, and then switch it up to Zons for the boss fights, because those 3 sets will outperform it in trash pulls. Also in trash pulls, Spell Strat probably won't do you very good because it's only single target, and you get a debuff on you that you can't apply it to everybody. So in that case, for trash fights, I would suggest Burning Spellweave, or if you want to go full, full stop AoE mode, you can put on Spinners and a Lightning Staff, and just heavy attack the mobs if they're nice and grouped up. Or you can put on Burning Spellweave and equip Impulse to get nice AoE damage that way. With Grothdar, you should be doing tons and tons of damage with this setup for AoE. Alright, we'll go into skills. Liquid Lightning, Front Bar, Elemental Weapon, Crystal Fragments, Mage's Wrath, or Endless Fury. It's up to you. Both are pretty much the same. This one offers a little bit more splash damage, and the other one offers Magicka Return on killing an enemy with it. Bound Aegis and Fiery Rage. We have the Fiery Rage for the Ancient Knowledge passive, so we do 8% more damage with our direct damage abilities. Back bar, we have Haunting Curse, Blockade, Elemental Drain, this is our shield spot. It's a flex spot too. If you don't want to run with the shield, you don't really have to. I would recommend running with the shield until you're completely comfortable with all the mechanics and really don't die ever. And then Rearming Trap / Channeled Accelerate. Channeled Accelerate for ranged fights. Rearming Trap for things you can stay into melee range on. And Spell Sim. Now this is personal preference. You can also use Dark Deal here. Dark Deal is a little bit of a DPS loss, but it doesn't kill you when you use it. Spell Sim sacrifices your health to get Magicka back, and Dark Deal has, in my opinion, better regen, but it also has the downside of having a cast time. So that's why I use Spell Symmetry. It also gives us in power on our next ability, or our next light attack, and reduces the cost of our next ability. And then our main ultimate is Greater Storm Atro. Now, you can do this setup with Force Pulse as well. You just change out Elemental Weapon for Force Pulse, and you swap your ultimates around. And so your bars would look like this. Both offer very good damage. I've just parsed just a little bit higher with Elemental Weapon. That may be RNG based, but I think that Elemental Weapon outperforms it slightly because of it just costs just a little bit less Magicka. It's only 100 less Magicka, but 100 Magicka adds up when you're spamming it 30 times over a fight. So I'll show you a parse with both of them, just so you can see the difference. But we'll go into our champion points first. 56 Elfborn, 64 Elemental Expert, 19 Spell Erosion. Spell Erosion is dependent on what you're doing. If you're doing 4-man content, um, I would recommend probably using the Thief, or not the Thief Wonderstone, the Lover Wonderstone, uh, because you're not going to have 100% uptime on all your penetration buffs like you would in a trial. And who knows what your pug tank's going to be doing anyway. So uh, it's really dependent on what you're doing, but 19 is a good baseline. 25 Staff Expert and 66 Master at Arms and 40 into Thaumaturge. This is the setup that's been working for me. I've had really good results with it. I've done up to 50k on parses with the CP setup, solo without anybody buffing me or anything. So it's a solid setup. So let's do the Force Pulse parse first, and then I'll get into the basics of the rotation afterwards. I do a fluid rotation, so it's not exactly set in stone, and I reapply my debuffs when I need to and stuff like that. I will go over a static rotation that you can use, but I prefer fluid. There you have it, 45. Um, I did get RNG was Crystal Frags didn't proc as much as I would like it have, um, and you can see Force Pulse is quite draining on the rotation, but it does decent damage. 4,400 DPS on that, and well, just about 4,400, 4,200. But you can see you do decent damage with Force Pulse. It wasn't the greatest rotation, but it was pretty good. And let's do our elemental weapon rotation now, so you can see that. to build our ultimate up a little bit. Alright, now that we got our ultimate built up, we'll reset the dummy and we'll show you the elemental weapon rotation. It's basically the same rotation. You're just switching out elemental weapon for forest pulse, and that's basically it. All right. Pop our pot, let it burn down to 30 seconds. So we have, it just helps with sustain on a parse. And there you have it, 48.8, almost 49. Elemental weapon does 4.5k. It does do a little bit more damage, and that's why I have it as my main setup. But if you like Force Pulse, you can also use it. It's just a little bit less damage. I did get better RNG on my light attacks that time, which helps equate into the higher DPS. I also did 6 less crystal frags, and that was compared to the last run, at last parse. So that's a significant DPS drop over 4.2k. I don't necessarily like the RNG-ness of crystal fragments because one, you have to proc the instant cast, and two, you have to then crit the proc of the. So it's very RNG. It shouldn't affect your DPS more than what it did right here. I mean, it's a 2k swing either side, and you like it could be so 2k higher than this. If I had the same crystal frag procs, uh, I'd be at 50k. Now, with that, being said, crystal frags is very, very useful. It helps your sustain. It breaks up your rotation to get you more regen time. So let me go over a more of a standardized rotation for you. During your rotation, it's always liquid lightning, light attack, bar swap, light attack, blockade, light attack, and that's the standard front part of the rotation. Now we always apply elemental drain and trap at the start of the fight on a parse, but in a boss fight, elemental drain would be applied for you, so you would just drop that from the rotation entirely, and then you would just do your rearming trap every other rotation. So it goes like this: liquid lightning, light attack, blockade, light attack, curse, light attack, trap, bar swap, elemental weaving with crystal frags, and then when your blockade gets to 2 seconds, you bar swap and do it again. And then 2 seconds, back to the other bar. I didn't hit the wrong button. And then you just apply the other half of your dots. So 2 seconds, bar swap, haunting curse, rearming trap, and elemental weapon weave. 2 seconds, apply your dots, and do it that way. You just pick which 2 dots you're putting on the target on the back bar. I generally do Elo Drain and Spell Symmetry on the back bar in the same time, and then the next rotation you're going to be doing Haunting Curse and Rearming Trap. So it's liquid lightning, light attack, blockade, light attack, curse, light attack, rearming trap, light attack, bar swap, elemental weapon, and crystal frag weaving until blockade gets to 2 seconds. Then you redo your dots, apply elemental drain, and do spell sim. And then you go back to elemental weaving until you get back to 2 seconds in your blockade. So we got 2 seconds. Start casting the other one. Elemental weapon, spell sim. 2 seconds. Haunting curse, trap. Go back to weaving. 2 seconds. Elemental drain. Spell sim. Go back to weaving. Haunting curse. Rearming trap. 2 seconds. Elo drain. Spell sim. Execute phase, we just weave Mage's Wrath. in place of our spammable. We drop curse out of the rotation entirely and execute, and we just spam Mage's Wrath and Crystal Frags. Now, I would suggest keep still using Crystal Frags in your rotation in execute phase. Now, I wouldn't necessarily do it every time it procs, but uh, you might as well use the proc if you can. Like when you're bar swapping to put your dots back up, go ahead and throw out the Crystal Frag, because Crystal Frags and execute hits harder than Mage's Wrath does now with 3 Bloodthirsty. Crit for crit, they do about the same. Because Mage's Wrath, you have to crit both aspects of the ability in order to get the 1 crit value of Crystal Fragments. Now, Crystal Fragments animation is kind of slow, so it that is a thing, but you want to keep Major Prophecy up or Minor Prophecy up for the group as best you can in the execute phase, and that's why we keep using Crystal Fragments. But that's pretty much it. I hope you found the video informative. Hopefully it helped out people that are watching it. And I will see you again next time.